That is that bungalow and the one next to it are on Brooklands front on the corner of Morris Avenue. This was taken in 1932, and you see that little boy there, he was 6 years old, and that is me. So that is 76 years ago, looking out to sea in my uncle's telescope. That's the first photograph.
Thank you.
Would you like to see another one, or or have you got another question?
Yeah, can we just have a couple more, please? And that'll be.
Yes, I'll show you another one. That is Jaywick Beach before the seawall or anything else was built, and that is taken again in 1932, and you can see me there stuffing my face because I was all hungry. In 1929, when I was only 3 years old, my grandmother bought a plot of land, a small plot of land in Jaywick, when it first was opened for holidays by the man who owned the land, which was Jaywick Farm and Mr. Stedman. And that plot of land with a small little holiday chalet on it cost £50. We started to come down weekends, and then as Jaywick developed, the family, we came from London, decided that it would be developed, and we started to live in that photograph I showed you. I started school from there, and I stayed there until 1939 when the war came and I was evacuated. Well, Jaywick has developed from just being a holiday resort to becoming a village with a lot of people in, and Brooklands, in the early days, I'm talking about in the 30s, was just all the wooden bungalows, and people came down there just for cheap holidays because there was a lovely beach at times, but other times it was all mud, and people could have a cheap holiday. But it gradually changed because in the 50s, when people had more money, they started to go abroad, and the Brooklyn section of Jaywick deteriorated.
What was your job?
Well, my family had the shops in Jaywick. We had the butchers, the grocers, the greengrocers, candlestick makers, if you like, and the bakers, and we had to supply all our own stuff to shops. We went to Colchester, we even went to London in Covent Garden, and I drove one of the trucks for my uncle. Frank Christopher Stedman was the man who owned Jaywick Farm, and he started off Jaywick as a holiday resort. His nickname was Foff. Why it was called Foff, I don't know, but everybody who knew him and was allowed to call him called him Foff. I called him Foff once and I nearly got a thick ear for it. His name was Mr. Stedman as far as I was concerned.
My name's Shirley Hooton. I used to live in London.
Nice to meet you. What was it like to go on a holiday in Jaywick?
I enjoyed it. I first went to Jaywick in 1954, the year after the floods, because I'd only just joined the family. We would have normally not gone to Brooklands. We would have gone to a bungalow that was in Jaywick, but it got flooded out in the floods.
What was Jaywick like?
Well, I quite liked it. So there seemed to be lots of families there with young children. We had 3 that we took with us. When there was only one bungalow, and there wasn't really a lot to do. There was a bingo hall, which I called down the dip, which is at one end, was down the dip, and there was like a big cement piece at the back of it where children used to roller skate, and that about once a week they used to have a dance, which they used to have a loudspeaker and play music, and then we'd all dance around on this bit of cement, which was quite funny. But basically people went, in the morning you sort of went down the beach, and that. Well, I'll go start at the beginning. In the morning you'd have your breakfast, and then you'd get the children dressed, and then they'd play outside, and then you'd wash up, make the beds, get yourself dressed and everything, make some sandwiches, cut some cake, and then make some juice for the kids, and do a flask, and then you'd all go down the beach till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on the weather, of course. If the weather was nasty, you didn't sort of go down the beach, but you stayed in and you had a radio. You didn't have a television, of course. Had a radio, or you played games, board games, or did some drawing or something like that, you know what I mean. And some of the children were learning to knit, so that was, nice. But when it was a nice day, you'd go down to the beach to about 4 o'clock or so, and then you'd come back and went home and do your meal for the evening. And then at 6:30 to 7 o'clock you'd go to the bingo hall. Most of the women went there. The women went to the bingo hall and the men went to the other end and went to the pub, which is normal. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Anyway, but they would, I don't say all the men did, but they went up there, but the women mostly went out, and the children played out the back on this bit of cement, and that sort of, you know, played, you know, rounders and goodness knows what, skipping, you name it, and that. And then the bingo used to finish about 9 o'clock, which was still reasonably light, because it being the summer. And then sometimes the husbands used to come down and pick their wives up and children to bring them home. Sometimes you just go, but we only had about 2 streets to go, because, you know, they're built sort of that way. Well, we was in the second one there, so we was quite near to it anyway. Now, and then you sort of just come home and sort of, you know, a drink or something and then go to bed, you know. So it wasn't all that exciting really, but we enjoyed it. So, you know, but mostly you went to the beach during the day. As far as I know, there's a lot of people come down from London, because a lot of people used to go to Clacton and all that, so there are a lot of people like from the East End and everything used to come down there. Although I didn't live in the East End, let's say, but a lot of people from that area would come down. What I call ordinary people, you know what I mean to say. But they all seem to get on right together, you know what I mean. Now when you went to the bingo hall, if you got a win, and that say which you did, you know, from time to time, you'd get a piece of paper with one win on it. That's it. And if somebody around said bingo at the same time as you got half a win. But there was a hut near to where the pub was, where they had all the prizes for when your wins. But most people, what they did, they saved up their wins for the week, and then bought something nicer at the weekend. And that's before they went home. You know what I mean? So we had sort of a dance about once a week, and that's the bingo. So there wasn't really much more than that, except for it was mainly the beach really, because that's what people went there for, you know. Because what happened is they had to come down, when they wanted to get there, they had to come down from London on the train, or else get a coach to Clacton, and then they had to get a local taxi from Clacton to take them to Jaywick, because there wasn't a bus or anything to get them there. The last time I went to Jaywick, all they had was a parade with a few amusement things. They did have those little bungalow that the people live in permanently now there, but they was holiday ones then.